Hi all, welcome back. In this video, we are going to see what is the keyword called this. We have seen briefly about this keyword in the previous videos. So let us see more detail about that. So as we have seen in the previous videos, this is used to uh, refer to the current class variable. So this is normally used to avoid the ambiguities. So something like think that you have created an instance variable and parameter, both have got the same name. So when we try to access any one of this in the class, so which is going to create an ambiguity. So the ambiguity between instance variable and parameter can be avoided using the keyword called this. So let us see an example for this. So first, let us see a program which does not use the keyword this. Okay, so normal program we are going to see it. Later we are going to see how those issues we faced in the program can be overcome using the keyword this. Fine. So let us see the program where we can find a class called student, and there is a variable we call instance variable, and instance variable, let us say it is id, which is of type integer, and we have another variable name, and it's of type string. So we are not worried about the second variable, we are worried about the first variable id. Let us see the next statement, then you'll have better idea why we should worry about this. So next we have taken a constructor. This is obviously a constructor because it is taking the same name as the class. Class is student, my method also student. So this method is going to be a constructor, and we have taken id and name. Now please remember, this id is my parameter, and this id is my instance variable. I've taken the same name. Now look at the next statement. I'm writing id is equal to id. So when I write this, your system will get confused. Lot of ambiguity here. So which id is what? So here you can easily make it out. Actually, I want to say that this id is my instance variable because I've changed the color, but your system will not understand that. And this id I'm talking about when I say the green color id, which I'm talking about my parameter. But your system will not understand this, and which is going to throw an error, which is going to throw an exception, or this program will not run because there is an ambiguity. Same way with name, and we have a display where I'm going to print what is the id and name. So this is what my first program, uh, which is going to initialize the values for id and name. So let us see the class with the main function. So this is what my class with main function. So obviously this is a class which has got the main method. So I need to name the entire program, the whole thing in a file called mypgm.java. That should be the file name. Fine. So we are not worried about the file name at this stage. We should worry about what happened to this output. So this is what my main method, where I've created an object called s1. So when I create an object which has got the constructor, so what is my first object? This is what s1. I've created an object using a new operator. So obviously, which is going to allocate space for my object, and object is of type student. So it will come to student, and it will find what are the data members in this. So id id will take what is the space. Id is going to take normally 4 bytes. So this is going to be my id, and this is the space will be allocated for the string, and this is going to be the name. So let us write name. Yeah. So I'm done with this is what my S1, and what it does, it will come to this. So triple one is going to be the ID, and name is going to be Reggie. So what is the ID and name at this for this constructor? They are local variable and they are the parameters. Now look at the next statement. I just wrote it as ID is equal to ID. Now when I say, your system will get confused. Which ID is what? Actually, I want to say that this ID, as I told, this ID belongs to my instance variable and this ID belongs to my parameters. But there is no clarity in this. So obviously the system will get confused. The same way when I create the second object S2. So what we have done for the first object, everything will be done for the second object, where I'm going to initialize the values. Next, I'm going to call the object in the uh, program, which is display, where I'm going to print my ID and name. But finally, what output I'm going to get is which is going to print a null value, because there is an ambiguity. There is a confusion. I don't know which ID is what. So to overcome this, we are going to use a keyword called this. Okay. So let us see how we can change this program using this, or what difference your keyword this is going to make in this program. So let me repeat the parameter ID, which is your formal argument, and instance variable. This is also ID are same. So we are going to use the word or the keyword called this. So we are going to write or rewrite the previous program like this. Everything is same. Class name remains same. ID and name are my uh, instance variable. This is ID and name. These are my formal arguments. Look at this. This dot ID. So this dot ID when I write, which is going to represent the object, which is going to represent the instance variable. When I write this dot id, is understood that I'm talking about this. Now for this id, I'm going to initialize the value what is there in the id. Same way this dot name. So when I say this dot name, I'm talking about the instance variable. So this name is nothing but my formal parameter. This id is my formal parameter. Why this confusion? Why this ambiguity? Why this fuss? Why? Because my formal parameter and my instance variable has got the same name. We cannot stop somebody writing like this. Okay, so we are going to make use of the word this, and we have another function which is display, and display is going to print the id and the. So we are done with the first class. Look at my main program where I created object. Rest everything is same as the previous. I've created an object which is s1. So this is my S1. So when I create, which is going to have a space for name and ID. So this is the space for ID and this is the space for name. And what it does, which is going to pass two parameters. One is triple one, other one is Reggie. So what happened? ID is going to be triple one, and this is going to be Reggie. So ID. So now this is very clear. Which ID I'm talking about? I'm talking about the ID which is my column parameter. So id will be assigned to this dot id. What is this dot id? This dot id is going to be this triple one. And what is name? Name is Reggie. So Reggie will be assigned to this dot name. So when I say this dot name, I mean this local variable, or we call it as instance variable. This is going to be Reggie. Same way, so when I create a second object, whatever we have done, everything will be followed, which is going to have its own space with two uh, partitions. This is going to be triple two, and this is going to be Thomas. Next, I'm going to display it. So s1 dot display. What display is going to do? Display is because this is an object which has invoked this method. For this object, what is ID? ID is